What's up, everybody? Welcome to more R Space. I, 31 male, caught my fiancée, 31 female, in a lie. I caught my fiancée in a very big lie a month after getting engaged. We've had our ups and downs throughout a 4-year relationship. We are both in our 30s, but always find a way to make it work. We had a breakup in December of last year that resulted in us going no contact for about 10 days before we both couldn't handle the separation and started talking again. It was a little rocky, but texted every day, and by the end of January, we're getting back to normal. I had asked her if she had dated in the brief window we were apart or had anything to disclose, and was assured that nothing had happened. Fast forward to August, and we're engaged. This morning, I found out she had been seeing someone else until February or March. I confronted her, and she started crying and admitted she had slept with someone in January, and likely February, and had lied to me about it, and that she had also dated 2 other men through April, but not slept with them, but who knows. Her justification was that we never officially said we were back together, or that I was committed to progressing our relationship. This is true. I told her we could give it a try and I would make an effort, but given how bad December went, I didn't want to make a false promise that our being together would result in marriage. We, I guess, never officially said we were back together, but if we are texting daily saying I love you and seeing each other 3 or so times a week, then I think it speaks for itself. I'm not sure how to proceed. I've been accused by her of inappropriate behavior with women, which I did nothing, to the point I had to turn around and ask her why she was asking this and if she had done something I needed to know about. Well, now I have my answer, and she lied right to me on multiple occasions. I feel betrayed, and this was done behind my back, and had I known she did all this at the time, I would have never stayed. She also admitted she slept with him to get closure with us, but ultimately couldn't let me go and didn't want to tell me because it would have ruined us, which is absolutely correct and why I deserved to know and asked her about it. If it had happened once while we were no contact, I would be upset but could have understood. She lied and kept lying until we are now engaged, and she got caught. I feel so stupid for spending so much time together when she was seeing other people at the same time. For what it's worth, I don't think anything else is going on at this point, or would in the future, and believe she has now told me everything. Sitting here feeling embarrassed and on the fence about going through with everything, wondering what advice Reddit has. Update. Well, after the confrontation and everything that I've laid out in the original post, I did a couple sessions with my therapist, and it made me feel less hopeful about getting things back on track, to be honest. I told her that I didn't think things were likely to work out. I hadn't fully given up. It just wasn't feeling good. And it led to a big confrontation that was very explosive and was too much for me to deal with threats of self-harm and the works. From her point of view, I made a commitment and that we should be able to work past this. That we weren't together at the time, but has admitted to lying and being at least somewhat wrong for accusing me of things. That we weren't in a good place and that she has always wanted to make it work with me and loves me and will do whatever it takes to work past this if I give her a chance. She also thinks I'm just having cold feet and that I typically run from my problems, and I shouldn't do that this time considering where we are at. I would agree with her that we weren't in a good place at the time, and even I do run from things. I've been somewhat quick to end things at times, but I think things just get to a bit too much. For a bit more context, we ended things in December, as I mentioned in my earlier post, after she accused me of trying to cheat and instantly blocked me for 2 days, a week before we had a trip planned where I was going to propose. I had no idea what she was talking about or who she was referring to, and while I was trying to figure out who she was even talking about, I got blocked. I thought that this clearly wasn't meant to be, or at least we weren't ready, and said I wasn't going to propose. We kept in contact through Christmas or so, and then after another false accusation and blow-up, I wanted to go no contact, which lasted from late December to early January before she reached out. We picked up conversation and began seeing each other more regularly by the end of January. I told her we could go back to being together in a sense, but I didn't want to commit us being married after what had happened in December and just didn't see that happening. By early February, I was back to spending as much time with her as I normally would have and doing the same things we normally would do, but still it was a long road to get to the point we were engaged. All that being said, from my point of view, I told her that even if we wouldn't agree about the status of our relationship, that she knew it was wrong, which is why she lied to me about it, so she could keep her options open while keeping me in her life. Something I wouldn't have stayed for, and that she knew had she told me, I would have walked away given what happened in December. I can rationalize the dating to some extent, but not while lying to me about it, which is inexcusable, It makes it feel like cheating to me, even if she won't agree. What I can't do is rationalize how it felt to be accused so much over this past year while all of this was going on behind my back. She says it's this period of time from end of December to basically April, but given how much I've had to be accused of, I'm sure this has happened in the past prior to December, more than I care to admit. It's also hard that I've limited the things I do personally based on her insecurities and changed so much behavior thinking I should, but kind of seeing it hasn't been the case. It was more her issues, not mine, and how much that's caused me to walk on eggshells throughout our relationship, whether it was in regards to these accusations or anything else. That's honestly been the thing that makes me feel like this won't work, even more than the dating or even lying, which at least I can somewhat rationalize even though I shouldn't. Anyways, fast forward to the actual update. When I told her I didn't think we would be able to move past it, it was very volatile, with threats of self-harm, etc. That I loved her, but this didn't seem right. Told her I needed space to figure out how I feel about things. We took some space, which is when I process things from my point of view, and then let her know I wanted to call things off. It wasn't an easy discussion. I'm absolutely crazy about her, and I know that she really does love me and believes she would do whatever she could to try to make this work, and how important the engagement was to her. But I can't help finding out things the way I did, and how some of these things are not really fixable. We are going to let her family and friends know soon. She's very much devastated and feels that I'm just having cold feet, and has said if I wanted to get past it, I have a very short window to commit to working past this, basically until everyone knows it's off. Otherwise, there's no coming back. She doesn't think this was worth canceling our engagement. I have a different opinion, but I'll admit it's hard to end things with someone you love and are crazy about. Might be partially cold feet, but it's tough to tell and think it's more rational than anything. It also hurts as I know she's waited a long time for this moment, and it was very special for both of us, but I can't help the timing of when I found out or how it makes me feel. That's what's going on. If you've made it this far, thanks for reading. Our first comment comes from Last Standing Vampire. I'm sorry bro, but you made a good call reading the 2 posts you made. I would not suggest going for marriage with her. Ashley's opinion provides another opinion. Honestly, this does not sound like a healthy relationship. You said she was basically dating these other guys while you two were trying to work things out to keep her options open. It sounds like she wants to be married more than she wants to be married to you. Her threats of self-harm and ultimatums are more of a manipulation tactic to get her way. She really doesn't sound like she acknowledges what she did was wrong or that it hurt you. She is giving excuses and even putting some of the blame on you for not committing to her on her time frame. If you could work past all of this and find a way to trust her again, that is your choice. However, you should not be engaged while you work it out. The threat of you only having a short window to commit is downright jacked up. Do not let her try to rush you or force you into forgiving her. One more comment from Beb252. She cheated! While you didn't commit to marriage that time, you were still in a relationship and exclusive. The mere fact that she started seeing multiple people while still in a relationship with you is telling her behavior as a person. No matter who it is she's in a relationship with, she will do the same thing again. Run! Next up, daughter said my wife threatened to kick her out when she's 18 and that I will choose her over my daughter. My wife denies it. Need an outside perspective. My wife is 34. I'm 34, and my daughter is 16. I had her when I was very young. Her mother left us when she was 3. She has been the center of my attention for the past all my life. Everything in my life revolved around her. I barely dated women because I was afraid they might hurt my little girl, so I just casually hooked up and had friends with benefits just to fill my sexual needs, and that was pretty much it. When my daughter was around 12, I finally decided to go on a serious relationship again with a longtime friend of mine, which we had feelings for each other since in high school. She was the hottest girl in our school, so I was afraid to ask her out. We know everything about each other, and she knows how much I care about my daughter, and that I'll do anything for her, so she knows not to cross some lines. We dated for a while, then when I made sure my daughter liked her and everything was okay, we married, and I've never been happier. My life has been pretty hard, but now things are coming together. My wife is pregnant with a boy. But yesterday, my daughter came barraging into my office crying in front of all my employees. When I calmed her down, we went for a walk, and she told me that she got into an argument with my wife and that she told her, "You're such a lazy piece of crap. Now I see why your mother left you. Your dad is going to have a son soon, and he's not going to care about you anymore." She also said my wife threatened to kick her out when she's 18, and that I won't stand in her way because I love her so much, and that I won't choose someone who won't do anything for her over her. I reassured her that she is always going to be my top priority, and she can stay in my house for as long as she desires. She looked a lot better when I told her that. When I furiously confronted her and told her about the whole situation, she looked offended and told me she never said such a thing. She said that my daughter's room was completely messy. She asked my daughter to help her clean it, and she responded with, "It's your responsibility now, leave me alone, you're annoying me." She said she's not going to be able to leave when she's 18 because she's irresponsible, and that I'm going to have a child soon and we can't pay attention to her 24/7 and take care of her as much. Now I don't know what to do. Both sides expect me to believe them, though my wife's story seems more realistic. Because of my daughter's story, my wife sometimes insults and threatens people. But not like this, she also loves my daughter. She was always happy to take care of her when she was little. Need an outside perspective. What should I do? Please help. The first perspective comes from Diagnosed Wolf. I suspect that both versions of the events are true, or at least I suspect that both women are being truthful in how they perceived the encounter. I remember being a teenage girl. I remember having arguments like this with my mother. My mom was great at grabbing me before I stormed off and saying, "That is not what I said. Listen to what I said." Clean your room, it's always so messy, sounds to an upset teenager a lot like, "You are a lazy piece of crap." I'm not going to be able to leave you alone when you're 18. Sounds to an upset teenager like, "I'm planning on leaving you alone, kicking you out when you're 18. Your dad is going to have a baby and we can't pay as much attention to you." Sounds to an upset teen a lot like, "Your dad won't need you after his son is born and he's not going to care about you." I suggest that you talk to your teen as though her version of events were real, because they were, to her. Explain that you are never going to replace her. Explain that neither you nor your wife have plans to kick her out. Then bring in your wife to explain that things were misinterpreted, kindly and with compassion. One more comment to wrap things up from LaLadybug81. While it may be beneficial to sit them both down and try to figure it out, I want you to realize that if one of them is dedicated to lying, they may not be easily pushed off the lie, and are just as likely to get emotional as the one telling the truth if they're worried about getting caught. What may help is if you tell them together that you are absolutely not going to let your daughter be kicked out at 18, and that if it came down to it, you will always choose your kids. If your daughter is exaggerating the fight due to insecurities, this should help allay those, and if your wife is lying and has been hateful and verbally abusive to your child, this may get her to tip her hand.